hearing of the Senate Taxes Committee. It is Thursday, April 21st. It is 9:01 a.m. We have the minutes of, quorum is present. We have the minutes from April 16th in members' folders. Are there any corrections or revisions? Or seeing none, the minutes are approved as presented. The first bill on our agenda is Senate File 5139. Senator Rarick, welcome to the committee.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members. Thank you for hearing Senate File 5139. This bill would help farm wineries across the state. In short, this bill would add the farm winery to the list of allowable farmland use to be able to remain agricultural. Currently, and you'll hear the story from someone from my district, as a farmer is looking at opening up a winery, all of the licensing that they are going through is around agriculture. But once they get up and operating, they get kicked up into a commercial tax, property tax rate, which they were not expecting, which, as you'll hear, really increases the amount of taxes that they are paying. So it's simply, and I want to reiterate to members, this is not creating a new property tax classification. This is just allowing farmers to remain under their agricultural tax classification if they open up a farm winery. And Madam Chair, with that, I will turn it over to my testifier.
Senator Rarick, you need to go through the bill section by section, please.
Okay. Sorry, Madam Chair. It's just very simply just one section of the bill, and if you look on page 4, we're adding in that the contiguous acreage that contains a farm winery that's licensed under 340A315 will be one of the uses allowed. And then on page 5, adding section or number 9 in here again is reiterating that the consumption of the wine for sale and consumption as a product of the farm that's licensed under there is an allowable use under that property tax classification.
Thank you, Senator Rarick. You know, this is an 8-page bill, but it only has 2 sentences in it that are that call for a different action. So we just want to make sure that the members and the public are aware of that. Members, in your packets are not only a summary from Senate Council, but also a revenue estimate noting that there are currently about 93 licensed farm wineries in Minnesota, and the taxation is as Senator Rarick just explained. And under the proposal, the property other than tanks used for wine fermentation and storage would be classified as agricultural and remain as agricultural. And there is no, not until FY 2029, is there any impact on the state, either of the property tax refund interaction or the ag homestead market value credit or the school bond credit, and at that point it is negligible. So with that, are there questions for Senator Rarick about the intent of the bill or the revenue estimate? Anyone? Thank you very much. We'll listen to your testifier now, and we welcome Ms. Morrison. Welcome to the committee. If you'd identify yourself for the record.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair Rest and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Debbie Morrison. My husband and I are the owners of Sapsucker Farms Yellow Belly Cidery in Quamba, which is just outside of Mora. Senator Rarick's bill will resolve an issue that we face when starting our farm winery, and I'm here to share my support for his bill SF 5139. I'll start by sharing a little bit about our farms and cidery. We have a 172-acre, diverse, certified organic farm and apple orchard, and in 2014, we began the process of establishing our farm winery and our license, which is required to be located on agriculture land. This allowed us to build a cider production facility on our farm where we have lived since 2000. Today, we appreciate the opportunity to welcome out-of-the-area visitors to a rural destination they may never have otherwise visited. That said, the challenge that we didn't anticipate was, given that our license is required to be on ag land, is that once our facility was built, the property tax classification for the new farm winery production building was charged as a commercial property, not as an agricultural building like the other buildings on our farm. Speaking with my farm winery colleagues throughout the state, this has been a challenge, not only because we learn about the change in classification just after we finished construction of a very expensive food-grade building, but it also is located on the same land where we live. Therefore, the increased property tax directly impacts our housing costs too. For us, our property tax went from $3,000 to $9,000, so it's tripled. With that said, the beauty and the original purpose of farm wineries in Minnesota was effectively established in the mid-90s with the initiatives of the Minnesota Department of Agriculture to diversify agriculture in the state, University of Minnesota to develop cold climate grapes, and Minnesota Tourism to promote agritourism. And it works. That's precisely what the 93 farm wineries have accomplished, as we have become attractions that bring visitors from all over the state to our small rural communities to see parts of the state they may have never seen before, like Quamba, and to experience new Minnesota-grown products. Senator Rarick's bill would affirm that farm wineries' production facilities are in agriculture buildings and will allow our property tax classification to be taxed at the agriculture rate, just as our specific licensing requirements are in statute. I'll also say that I'm proud to contribute to the success of my community and support other small businesses, including food trucks, vendors, independent artists, and so much more. I invite you all to visit our farm up in Quamba, and also treat yourself to visiting one of the 93 farm wineries throughout our beautiful state. Beyond the farm wineries who support this change, I also want to share the support of Minnesota Farmers Union. We brought this issue to our local MFU chapter and are grateful that this is being brought forward by Senator Rarick. Thank you, and I'll be happy to take questions.
Any questions or comments for Ms. Morrison? Seeing none, thank you very much. Senator Rarick, and Senate File 5139 will be laid over.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
You bet.
Thank you.
Next on our agenda is Senate File 5010. Senator Hauschild, who has an A1 author's amendment. Senator Hauschild, welcome to the committee. Senator Hauschild offers the A1 amendment. It is an author's amendment. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. The motion prevails and the amendment is adopted. This is, the A1 is a delete everything amendment. So Senator Hauschild, if you would just explain this one section bill now.
Yes,
Just explain,
yes.
you only have to explain the DE amendment because it has replaced the original bill.
Yes. Thank you, Madam Chair. If I could, I'll give some remarks and then I'll quickly walk through the one
That's
section
fine.
bill. Yep. Thank you, Chair and members. I'm here to present Senate File 5010. This is a targeted one-time increase to the property tax refund that delivers fast relief to Minnesotans feeling rising costs. We all know property taxes are going up across Minnesota, and for many families, this is not just one bill. In addition to property taxes, it's utilities, groceries, insurance, everything is moving in the same direction. And when it comes to property taxes, we need to be clear about what's driving these increases. Local governments are feeling significant cost pressures, including from the federal government, who have shifted costs through the One Big Beautiful Bill, especially in areas like human services. At the same time, property values have risen sharply since COVID. Those two things together are driving higher property taxes for everyone. While this isn't a budget year, we still have the opportunity to deliver targeted, responsible relief, and that's exactly what this bill does. Senate File 5010 provides a one-time 12% increase in the homestead credit refunds for taxes payable in 2026. It works through a system we already have in place, so it's efficient and straightforward, and we know that this approach works. For example, in 2023, a similar increase helped over 539,000 homeowners, including many who hadn't qualified before. This proposal follows a similar model. It keeps eligibility tied to income and targets relief to middle to low-income Minnesotans who are feeling those increases most. Since 2023, we've delivered billions in tax relief and significant support to local governments, but those efforts are now being outpaced by rising costs and federal cost shifts. So this bill is about responding to that reality. It recognizes property taxes as one of the fastest rising costs and delivers relief where those increases are happening. The fiscal impact for this bill is about $100 million in fiscal year 2027, a reasonable investment to deliver meaningful relief. Chair and members, this is a practical bill. It meets people where they are, and it delivers relief where it's most needed. I will walk through the bill, or the DEA1 amendment here. Section 1, Subdivision 1 is the homestead credit refund of 12% payable in 2026. Subdivision 2 allows that the commissioner does not have to provide additional information on appeals. Taxpayers will retain all rights for appeal adjustments under this section. Subdivision 3 is the appropriation of $100.8 million, and the effective date is for property taxes payable in 2026. And with that, Madam Chair, that is the bill and my testimony.
Okay, are there questions for Senator Hauschild? I have one. Would you add me as a co-author?
Of course, I can't believe you're not on there already, Madam Chair. Thank you so much.
I just checked.
Yes.
And
My oversight.
you probably are going to now get some other requests, but I would appreciate that. This is not a new idea for us to ask for property tax relief for renters, which we did in 2023 as we moved the renter's credit from a September payment to as a property tax refund to including it on the M1 as an income tax offset. So we're really pleased to now focus on homeowners, particularly as cities and counties, townships are being squeezed to provide for their citizens and their constituents. And as we know, many of them have, for capital projects, have taken on proposals and presented them to us to impose a quarter cent or a half cent, that's the limit, sales tax for a limited number of capital projects. I'll tell you that, and Senator Hauschild knows this as well, we, as we were approaching our leadership, we asked for $100 million in this one-time relief going forward, and that turned out to be 11.9%. And the leaders say, why don't you just ask for 12%? And that's why the number in the revenue estimate is $100.8 million in this one-time money. And I appreciate the work that Senator Hauschild has been doing on other measures regarding property tax relief. That was kind of for this committee, kind of his major assignment, and I congratulate him on delivering this as a position of the Senate, and I'm hoping that even though Republicans on this committee may find fault with some other provisions in our bill, that they will welcome this one. Are there questions or comments now for Senator Hauschild? Well, it seems, Senator Hauschild, that your proposal is well received. And with that, Senate File 5010, as amended, will be laid over.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Hauschild. The next bill is Senator Dibble. Senator Dibble brings us 5038. Senator, let me find Senator Dibble, welcome to the committee. And even before I'm going to let you begin, I'm going to especially welcome one of my mayors, Julie Deschler, who is here from the city of Crystal, and I want to make a couple of comments about her efforts with regard to the city of Crystal. Mayor Deschler goes out 2 or 3 times a week by herself and accompanied by others maybe occasionally as a one-person cleanup force. She goes in the shopping center, she goes along the streets of our community with a bag and gloves, and she picks up trash. And her dedication is just lauded by everyone, including myself. And it's not a one-off. This is something that she has done now for months. And I just want people all around this state to know how dedicated you are in a very practical way to the beautification of the city of Crystal. And I want to personally and publicly thank you.
Thank you very much for those kind words.
Senator Dibble.
Thank you, Madam Chair. If I may, I loved hearing about that because I was raised by a father who never passed by a piece of litter that he didn't pick up. And I'm not quite as diligent, but I'm pretty close. So I appreciate what you do.
Not a problem.
Madam Chair, thank you for the opportunity to present Senate File 5038. Madam Chair, simply put, what this bill would do is establish a one-time $10 million appropriation to reimburse Minnesota cities for the extraordinary and unplanned costs they incurred towards the latter part of last year, the early part of this year, that was related to the presence of federal, a large force of federal agents in our communities, referred to as Operation Metro Surge. And it created and imposed a substantial cost on local governments. Madam Chair, cities don't control federal enforcement decisions, but they are responsible for keeping streets safe and managing emergency response, supporting impacted residents, maintaining public order. And when federal actions create those extraordinary local costs, it is appropriate for us to come in and help and recognize those costs, provide targeted relief, and protect property taxpayers from absorbing them. So, Madam Chair, again, the bill would provide one-time aid, allow cities to submit reimbursement for those costs, ensures that it's only hard costs. My own city had more than $6 million in unplanned expenses, but Minneapolis was not alone in bearing those costs. The enforcement was localized, but there is ongoing issues around public trust, municipal stability, et cetera, that affects our entire state. Madam Chair, I'll walk through the bill quickly and then I'll refer to my testifiers who
Absolutely.
can
Thank you,
help
Senator
round out
Dibble.
the story just a little bit. So, Madam Chair, the bill consists of one section divided into 6 subdivisions. Subdivision 1 provides for some definition of key terms. City Commissioner, it spells out what the eligible costs would be, including public safety, such as police overtime, emergency management, public works, legal counsel, defines what exactly we're talking about in terms of federal enforcement actions and the period of time that's in question. Subdivision 2 provides for certification of the costs, requiring the cities to submit a report to the state auditor by August 1st of this year, outlining the format, the documentation requirements, providing for the costs are accurate, eligible, and tied to those federal actions. Subdivision 3 provides for proportional distribution so that each city would receive a share based on their verified costs relative to the statewide total and, of course, whatever appropriation the legislature might deem fit. Subdivision 4 encourages cities to pursue federal reimbursement where possible, and if that is received, it would then repay the state up to the amount of aid received from the federal government. Subdivision 5 pertains to certification and payment. Provides by December of this year for the Commissioner of Revenue to calculate and certify the aid amount, and towards the end of December, the payments to be issued. Subdivision 6 spells out the appropriation of $10 million from the general fund on a one-time basis, and then, of course, there is an effective date at the end of the bill. That's the bill, Madam Chair, and we have some wonderful people who can help speak to.
Thank you very much. Senator Dibble, are there questions or comments, first of all, to Senator Dibble? Senator Nelson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And Senator Dibble, I appreciate the desire to make our local governments whole from the additional costs that were imposed upon them. And my question is, in looking at the distribution, how do you, if it's just the percent of, the formula is based upon the percent of total statewide costs that a particular city incurred, or maybe county, I believe it's always city in my experience, how would you, so there are other cities beside Minneapolis and St. Paul, which are together probably half of our state's population anyway, perhaps the revenue as well. What about cities like Rochester, which also incurred a large number of costs? But if the distribution is only based upon the total percent of costs statewide, I would assume that 98% of this bill would be coming to Minneapolis and St. Paul. And I'm just wondering if you have any ideas about the other parts of the state that also had law enforcement costs.
Senator Dibble.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Senator Nelson. I'll look for some help in answering that question, but the costs that are being requested, it is important that they be documented and submitted for verification with the state auditor. And then, of course, I think the bill is written in a way that says that, there would be, some sort of ratio or proportional share. I don't think anyone would dispute that the majority of the consequences and activity during this period of time occurred in Minneapolis, and it's also the largest city, so that would make some sense. But there's quite there. I agree with you. There's quite a bit of activity that created disruption in the surrounding suburbs and in other communities like yours, and so I think it's perfectly reasonable for you to ask that those costs be recognized and reimbursed.
Madam Chair?
Yep. Senator Nelson, I think more of us are interested in that formula, and I wonder if we could hear from the witnesses and then return to the questions.
Oh, yes, Madam
Would that
Chair.
be okay?
Yes, I'd very much like to get more in
Thank
detail
you.
on the formula. Thank you so much.
With that, Senator Dibble, we welcome Rachel Sayer, the Director of Emergency Management, the City of Minneapolis. Welcome to the committee. If you'd identify yourself for the record.
Thank you. Good morning, Chair Rest and members of the committee. My name is Rachel Sayer, and I am the Director of Emergency Management for the City of Minneapolis. I'm pleased to testify today in support of Senate File 5038. About 2 months ago, we released a preliminary impact assessment, which includes impact data and statistics on the most life-saving urgent needs in the City of Minneapolis, as well as cost impacts to the city itself. This preliminary estimate is a snapshot of the consequences that we experienced in everyday life that were disrupted by Operation Metro Surge. While the surge in immigration enforcement leaves behind significant negative impacts to our city's economy, livelihoods, our residents' mental health, and to food and shelter security, there have been significant strains on our city operations. As the Senator mentioned, we have had more than $6 million were spent on police overtime, staff costs, and operational expenses in January alone. And that number is certainly higher when we think about February, as I would assume is the same for other cities who have experienced this. The city is facing a financial challenge that could risk its ability to deliver core services without further burdening residents with added property taxes due to this unforeseen cost of Operation Metro Surge on our services. Our residents have experienced a great deal of duress over the last several months, and while urgent needs continue, we have moved into recovery planning. Our ask of the state is to stand with us and partner in securing resources, expediting relief, and ensuring we have the tools that are necessary to recover quickly. SF 5038 would provide the City of Minneapolis with the necessary resources to continue providing our essential resources and services while we tackle our city's recovery. We thank Senator Dibble for bringing this proposal forward. Madam Chair and members, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sayer. And next we have Mayor of Crystal, Julie Deschler. If you'd identify yourself for the record, we welcome your testimony.
All right, Chair Rest and members of the committee, thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak. My name is Julie Deschler, and I am the Mayor of Crystal. I am in front of you today representing Cities for Safe and Stable Communities. We are a nonpartisan coalition of 33 Minnesota cities united to work towards stability, trust, effective local government, and effective local governance. I am here today in strong support of Senate File 5038. The economic toll of Operation Metro Surge on our cities is documented and real. Coalition cities have already incurred over $400,000 in direct costs, which is police overtime, staff responses, emergency communications, with $1.4 million deployed in emergency grant support and additional $180,000 still pending. In Brooklyn Park alone, the city deployed over $600,000 in combined grants supporting rental assistance, legal support, food resources, while diverting more than 250 staff hours to surge-related response. These are dollars that came out of our city budgets that were never designed to absorb a 10-week federal operation. And the costs extend well beyond our city halls. Hundreds of local businesses across our coalition reported monthly revenue losses of 50 to 100% during the surge. Restaurants, markets, and service businesses watched foot traffic disappear. Business owners maxed out credit cards just trying to hold on. In Richfield, January local sales tax receipts came in $100,000 below projections, a 30% drop, which represents roughly $20 million less in taxable business activity in a single month, just in a single city. But the economic costs were not just in dollars. Also, Richfield, roughly 900 students shifted to remote learning and 560 fewer school lunches were served nearly every day of the operation. This bill creates a reasonable and accountable mechanism verified by the state auditor to reimburse those documented municipal costs. That is exactly the kind of targeted responsible relief our cities need. This coalition does believe in the rule of law when we respect federal authority, but we are asking this committee to affirm that Minnesota cities should not be left alone to absorb the costs of federal actions without recourse. This bill is a measured step towards recovery, and we urge you to support it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Deschler. Are there comments for the mayor? Seeing none, we will return to questions or comments. Senator Nelson, did you have anything further?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And thank you for the additional information as well. That was very helpful. So my question is, and there's probably someone who could figure it out, maybe right here in this room. So kind of getting to the idea about the formula and the reimbursement, particularly for those costs that our cities incurred with the law enforcement that was necessary at that time. And so I was thinking in my mind, if the Minneapolis budget is 1.9 billion after, parks and such are taken out, what percent of 1.9 billion is 6 million? That's kind of what I'm thinking more as far as how formulas. And I don't know if I understood, Senator Dibble, if you have a type of formula that considers the size or the percent or the impact on the budget. I think that's what your bill's trying to get to. What's the size of the impact on the local budget? And that's kind of my question.
Senator Dibble, I'm going to ask you to respond to that question, and I ignored the police chief of Brooklyn Park, who's going to testify on Zoom. So as soon as you finish answering that question, I thank him for his patience. We'll call on him. Senator Dibble.
Thank you. That was probably my oversight as well. Out of sight, out of mind. Senator Nelson, I'm not sure that the formula is driven by the size of a given city's budget or not. The formula that was envisioned in the bill as drafted is more driven by the expense that a city documents that pertains to the consequence of the federal action over this period of time. You can see on lines 2.5 through 2.8 how the appropriation is envisioned to be distributed, where it says each city shall receive an amount of aid equal to the product of the total amount appropriated for the aid, so whether that's 10 million or whatever amount that is, and the ratio of the cost certified by the state auditor for the city under subdivision 2 to the cost certified by the state auditor for all cities under subdivision 2. So all of the certified costs, I would imagine, would be put into a single pot, and the proportion of that would be ascertained, what proportion each city is asking for relative to the total amount being asked, and then that's compared to the amount appropriated, and then the proportional amount would come back to each of those cities.
Senator Nelson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And Senator Dibble, I think that does get to the genesis of my question, which was proportionality to the size, the cost incurred by a smaller budget as compared to a larger budget. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Are there further questions or comments for Senator Dibble or his testifiers?
No, I'm sure we have that.
Oh, yeah. And the final testifier is Police Chief Bruley from the city of Brooklyn Park. Chief Bruley, welcome to the committee. If you'd identify yourself for the record, we definitely welcome your testimony. Thank you for your service and all you do and your department for keeping us safe. Chief Bruley.
Thank you and good morning, Chair Rest and members of the Minnesota Senate Tax Committee. My name is Mark Bruley. I am the police chief of Brooklyn Park. I have served in law enforcement for 30 years, and I'm here today because the municipal budget of the Brooklyn Park is being strained by federal activities that carry significant local cost. I want to be direct with you. You will not hear me say we need to abolish ICE. Federal immigration enforcement contributes to national security, and I have a long history of working with federal agents, including this past summer on the tragic investigation into the assassination of Speaker Hortman. But what happened during Operation Metro Surge was not the federal partnership I have known for 3 decades. It was a chaotic operation that shifted federal cost onto our local taxpayers. In the wake of the operation, Brooklyn Park has joined a coalition of city leaders and administrators from across the metro to address this issue. We are speaking with one voice because we recognize that unsupervised federal actions created a fiscal ripple effect that no single city should have to absorb alone. Since January 1st, the Brooklyn Park Police Department has logged over 200 overtime hours specifically tied to ICE-related activities, costing our residents approximately $24,000. That figure is still growing, and because we did not track these costs prior to the first of the year, the true total cost is much higher. For a city our size, every overtime dollar spent responding to the fallout of unsupervised federal enforcement is a dollar diverted from investigating local crimes and maintaining the neighborhood presence our residents expect. The fiscal impact goes beyond simple overtime. During the surge, federal agents wore vests labeled police, but lacked name tags, body cameras, or standard protocols. When a U.S. citizen, including one of my own officers of color, is boxed in at gunpoint without cause, the public does not distinguish between a federal agent and a local officer. Brooklyn Park has invested significantly taxpayer dollars over the last decade to strengthen community trust. When federal actions erode that trust in a matter of weeks, they devalue the significant local investment. We are now forced to spend local tax dollars on emergency communications just to clarify that these agents are not our officers. As part of this coalition of cities, we are asking the state to recognize that local governments cannot budget for random, unsupervised federal surges that displace our officers from their duties. By forcing local police to respond to the fallout of federal operations, the federal government is effectively shifting its operational liabilities onto the local property tax base. Brooklyn Park residents pay local taxes for local protection. They should not be forced to subsidize a federal surge that lacks leadership and accountability. I respectfully ask this committee to support Senate File 5038 to ensure that our local public safety resources remain dedicated to local priorities. Thank you for the opportunity to testify on this much-needed aid.
Thank you very much, Chief Bruley. Are there questions or comments for the chief? Senator Nelson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Chief, and thank you for your service and leadership. My understanding, and I think this question might be for you, Chief. My understanding is that the local authorities, police, for example, in this case, do not work with ICE on ICE activities. In fact, I think oftentimes didn't know if ICE was coming to the community. But things like, I'm just looking for those things that are our local police departments did need to undertake that were unusual expenses because of the ICE activity, even though our police were not involved with the ICE activity per se. I'm wondering, like traffic control and crowd control, certainly those things always our police are tasked with. And is that the type of overtime and costs that your department incurred, those type of issues, or were there other things as well?
Chief Bruley.
Chair Rest, members of the committee, I think that's a great question. And there's a plethora of examples of where we incurred costs, both on operational costs, tying up our resources on a day-to-day event, meaning we can't respond to our 911 calls as effectively, and overtime costs where we had to call in more resources. And some of these are a variety of things. the large-scale incidents, like, Maple Grove had a large demonstration that required large amount of resources, and so did other communities. We had to go help them. No one police department can handle these type of large demonstrations involving hundreds or thousands of people, and to do it safely, it takes a lot of resources. And again, each police department cannot do it by themselves. Even Minneapolis, we spent many hours down in Minneapolis covering their North Precinct 911 calls so that they could have an all hands on deck to many of the demonstrations that they had to manage to make sure everyone was kept safe. But some of the other examples that not a lot of people don't understand is this was so unorganized and unorthodox type of policing. Federal agents would arrest people on the street, take them out of the car, and leave the car on the street blocking traffic. They would just leave it. And so, of course, you have a vehicle that's just been abandoned in the middle of traffic, and we have to go respond to it, tow it, remove it, get traffic flowing again, and find out it was federal agents that had arrested the occupants and just left the vehicle. We had them in all the hotels in the metro, including all over in Brooklyn Park, the hotels, and there was many 911 calls there from ICE agents about people tampering with their vehicles, people in the parking lot, people making threats, ICE agents saying that they're being followed. Those are all calls as public safety servants that we have to respond to those 911 calls. Other things like vehicle pursuits racing through the city. One of them ended up in our front. ICE was chasing a vehicle. They ended up fleeing, running into our police department, and being apprehended in our lobby of our police department as these community members are trying to get away from the ICE agents because of lack of trust, which requires us to respond.
Excuse me, we don't allow photography in the tax committee? I'm sorry, Chief Bruley, you may continue.
Yeah, so you can imagine this type of disruption, which requires, our front lobby personnel calling that there's people with guns, there's people in the lobby. It's an all hands on deck. All our resources have to come to the lobby to try to sort out why people are running into our front lobby with guns and essentially what appears to be some sort of fight or assault, which ultimately was a legitimate law enforcement activity, but because of the unorthodox way, lack of communication, and really unusual strategies, it caused a lot of impact to our law enforcement and to our community. And again, I'm just giving you some context to some of the reasons why we were so impacted. And again, that's just a few of them, let alone the continuous 911 calls from community about what they are observing, about ICE agents taking people into custody. They were calling 911, questioning if they were real ICE agents, which was legitimate. They're masked individuals with no identifying nameplates or other ways to identify them. They're in unmarked cars, most of which did not have lights. They were rental cars, jumping out and arresting and taking people to the ground. Our community was rightfully disturbed. That is not a scene that has ever been seen in the city of Brooklyn Park in the past. That does not happen. Normally when somebody is arrested, it's clearly the police that are doing it. In this case, our community had no idea who was enacting these type of activities upon our community. So just some of the ways that we were impacted by this surge.
Senator Nelson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Chief Bruley. I think that those were important things for us to understand. And I know that I know we have no control over ICE in this body, but certainly going forward, those type of things I think would be really helpful for us to know. So I think your description of what was happening was very helpful. So thank you very much.
Are there any other comments, Senator, or questions? Senator Dibble, are there other proposals moving forward in the Senate in other committees addressing the same need or similar need, particularly with regard to appropriations, one-time appropriations for public safety?
Madam Chair, not that I'm aware of.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate that. I think the testimony of your witnesses is very compelling. Senator Drazkowski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Quick follow-up question for Chief Bruley. Chief, I think it's kind of widely understood the communication between the law enforcement of the Minnesota cities that were where this activity was taking place, and ICE was at times almost non-existent or not very up to par. If that communication had been stepped up to better levels, would some of these costs that you incurred been able to be avoided? I mean, I think bring up the example you had. Wouldn't you normally expect that? I mean, if you were doing a mutual aid effort with some neighboring city or something under some other circumstances, wouldn't you expect that that department would communicate with you that that car was there, as an example? And so to what extent did maybe, certainly there's political differences and different ideas about how that should have happened, or there's some people in our state that think it shouldn't have happened. How did that contribute to the lack of communication? And then the lack of communication, did that contribute to the expenses?
Chief Bruley.
Chair Rest, members of the committee, I think that's a great question as well. Significantly would be my answer. Traditionally, this is something we've never experienced before. We have worked with ICE and other federal agencies for a very long time and have a high level of respect. Traditionally, they are very well trained, very well organized, and very good communicators. In the past, prior to this, when ICE would be doing a warrant or an activity, they would almost always call us and give us a head up and let the district squad cars know what was occurring for two reasons. One, to make sure that they deconflict any issues, to let us know that they're there. It is federal agents doing their job. And then two, if they ever got in a predicament where they needed assistance and potentially life-saving efforts were needed, our officers could respond and help them out as federal law enforcement partners. That was completely gone in this case. In this case, there was no communication. And quite honestly, it is my belief, my personal belief, it was intentional. It was intentional takeover of an area with this ideology that was portrayed upon federal agents, that there was some overwhelming resistance to local law enforcement cooperating because we were labeled as not cooperating with ICE. That was misconstrued because of maybe things that I've said, which is we don't do the work of ICE. That's not our role in local law enforcement. We do not do local immigration enforcement. We never have. It's never been our role. It's not something that we're equipped. We have limited, finite resources that we use to protect this community. We also don't do DNR work. We don't go check game and fish license down at the river because that's not our role. We all have roles. That doesn't mean we don't respect or work with each other, but somehow that was interpreted by this surge or by the leadership that you could not trust or work with federal government, and I think that was a huge miss and really disappointing because that has never been our relationship. Some real examples of that are many times our officers will respond to calls. For example, in our own lobby, when ICE agents chased a suspect into our lobby who was fleeing from them, when we went out there, a couple of the ICE agents wouldn't even speak to my sergeant, would not speak to him when he asked him questions. When you're in my building taking an enforcement action, they wouldn't talk. And we have other examples of that, of officers' body camera, where they arrive on a scene with ICE and they refuse to cooperate or communicate with the officers on scene. That is disappointing for me to even have to speak of, as we are law enforcement agencies that should inherently always have worked really well together, respecting each other's roles. That just was completely eroded and gone. And again, when federal agents are just abandoning vehicles in the middle of the street and not even calling local jurisdiction, I think it's safe to say that there was no communication.
Thank you, Chief Bruley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, thank you very much. Senator Dibble, do you have any final comments?
Madam Chair, just thank you for the full discussion And, you know, of course, my commitment, as always, is to continue to engage with yourself and the members of the committee on this matter. Senator Nelson, if you have good ideas or better ideas for how to get to what we're, I think, both focused on, happy to chat some more. Thanks.
Thank you, Senator Dibble. Senate File 5038 will be laid over. The next bill on our agenda is Senate File 4631, Senator Latz. Senator Latz brings us Senate File 4631. Senator Latz, if you would begin by reviewing the bill. It's only Section 1, but if you would review that language with us, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Then we'll have your testimony.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members. This is a bill I'm bringing on behalf of the city of Hopkins to extend their tax increment financing district due to development or redevelopment market conditions that delayed a substantial portion of the redevelopment of their cold storage site. A large company with a large footprint left the city. They're up to the point of expiration of their TIF district. Actually, I think it expired in March.
March of 27.
Oh, it will expire in March of 27, so now's the time to get it taken care of. So the bill proposes to extend to 10 years the period relating to the use of the increment after the expiration of the 5-year period. And then because of the way the use factors in and when you have to eliminate the districts after they're used, extending to 11 years the TIF district under the other portion of the statute under subdivision 4. So we ask for your support on that. I have with me Kirsten Elverum, the Director of Planning and Development for the City of Hopkins, to testify.
Thank you, Senator Latz. So, members, in particular, looking at Section 1, what is being asked to be extended is both the 5-year rule and the 6-year rule. And that is what is contained in Section 1. And then the effective date, as usual, has to be affirmed by the City Council itself. Are there questions for Senator Latz? Seeing none, we'll move to your testifier. And we welcome Kirsten Elverum, the Director of Planning and Development, the City of Hopkins, which I hope you will explain why you need this extension and why you were not able to complete the project within the 5-year rule, and why you need this level of extension. Ms. Elverum.
Thank you, Chair Rest and members of the committee. In 2021, the city created TIF District 1-6, which is 325 Blake Road, to redevelop a site, as Senator Latz said, was a former cold storage facility on about 13 acres of developable land. It sits right on Minnehaha Creek, and it's adjacent to our light rail station on the Green Line. This redevelopment is a very important project for the city. It's really a once-in-a-generation project to be able to shape values and economics that will serve the city for years to come. It also is a very important project for cleaning the water. It has some stormwater infiltration ponds and systems that will clean about 270 acres of stormwater from nearby cities, really preventing that contaminants from going into the creek, contaminating our lakes and the Mississippi River. It is a phased development. We were able to accomplish one large 116-unit affordable building called Chorus Apartments. It's open and completely occupied, but during the time that that building was being constructed, market conditions started to deteriorate, interest rates started to climb, and construction costs also skyrocketed, with materials being a big driver of that. We were not able to get those projects in the ground. We feel like we're getting closer, but we will need an extension in order to realize the full potential of this project. I think our request is pretty straightforward. We're asking for an extension of the 5-year rule to give us that time to incur the costs, an extension of the 6-year rule to fully realize the benefits of the district. And with that, I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Ms. Overwood, how confident are you by the legislature granting you this extension that in the next 5 years, the project is going to be completed?
I'm very confident. We have a really ambitious but based in reality development proposal for the site. It has a lot of different components to it. There's for sale townhomes, there's a senior cooperative, there's another multifamily building that has a mixed income approach. So we're hoping that we can move on the next building in the next year and that will then get the road in place and let the other development fall into line. And we're pretty optimistic that that's going to happen.
Thank you very much. Members, this is not a particularly unusual request, and when we've encountered uncertain times, particularly in the last 10 years, with regard to projects moving forward with tax increment financing, we've been fairly generous in granting these extensions. Are there questions or comments for Senator Latz or his testifier? Seeing none, Senator Latz, Senate File 4631 is laid over.
Thank you.
The last bill before us is Senate File 5065. There is an author's amendment. Senator Hauschild offers the A1 amendment. All those in favor, please say aye. Opposed, say no. The motion prevails and the amendment is adopted. And it was the A4 amendment, by the way, to identify it. Senator Latz, would you explain the impact of the A4 amendment on the original bill?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair and members. The A4 amendment eliminated the proposed changes on line 1.14 of the bill relating to Fred Richards Park. So we're not asking for any changes there. It changed the name of the Braemar project to more accurately reflect what it actually is, which is an ice arena. And it struck the changes on page 2, or it struck a notwithstanding provision on page 2, line 10. It made the changes on line 23, eliminating the changes that are proposed in the original bill. And there was a typo relating to the dollar amount on line 2.27 that was inconsistent with the change in the number from page 1. So it corrected that from $25 to $35 million.
Senator Latz, is it your impression that through your amendment that Senate File 5065 now meets the guidelines that are required for a local sales tax in front of this committee?
That was the purpose of the amendment, and it's my impression that it does meet those guidelines now.
Thank you very much, Senator Latz. Are there questions for Senator Latz? I'm also going to ask before we get to your testimony, Senator Hemmingson Yeager and Senator Nelson, have you reviewed this, and do you believe that by the amendment that the bill will now meet the guidelines? Or maybe you haven't reviewed it yet. We have not finalized the LST article, but we will appreciate your doing that before we do. Okay.
I don't know that we have reviewed this
Looked at
one
it
per
yet?
se, but all the other ones that we've heard have been reviewed.
Okay, thank you. Senator Latz, just want you to know Senator Hemmingson Yeager and Senator Nelson are kind of a subcommittee of the Taxes Committee, and we're relying on them for their recommendations about the LST bills that are in front of us. Are there questions for Senator Latz? Senator Drazkowski?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Senator Latz. I did see that one of the items struck in the amendment was the ability for the voters to weigh in on this. Is there a reason to not allow the voters to vote whether or not to increase their local sales tax?
Senator Latz?
Madam Chair, Senator Drazkowski, the portion of the bill that does not involve voter approval involves just a change in the total amount of the use of the sales tax. That was previously approved by voters, but the dollar amounts have shifted. So we're asking to increase the dollar amount from $53.3 million to $56.3 million. The other provisions that are requested for the new public safety facility, for the Edina Arts Center, for the Aquatic Center, and for the ice arena, for the design of the ice arena, are all subject to voter approval. I'm sorry, not the ice arena, the golf club, the golf course clubhouse. Those are all subject to city council and then voter approval in the fall.
And Senator Drazkowski, Ms. Pollack can give us a little bit more detail about how that, what is subject to the referendum and what is not, if you would let me call on her to explain.
Oh, sure, Madam Chair.
Ms. Pollack.
Madam Chair and Senator Drazkowski, in addition to what Senator Latz mentioned, just to clarify, striking the notwithstanding language on 2.10, that paragraph would just read now, use of tax revenues, et cetera, is subject to voter approval at the November 3rd general election. The reason that the notwithstanding language was removed was that it was unclear whether the 2026 election was the general election for the city. Some cities have odd-year elections, and so the requirement in statute is that the approval must take place within 2 years of legislative approval. And so if the general election in a city is in an odd year, we would not need to specify that here, but because the general election in Edina is in an even year, we don't need to notwithstand the general law.
Senator Drazkowski.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Ms. Pollack. I'm not sure I completely understood, but it sounds like the voters will still get to weigh in on the increase, is what you're saying. Okay.
Ms. Pollack.
Yeah, that was my only concern.
Madam Chair, Senator Drazkowski, yes.
Thank you. Thank you both.
Thank you. Are there, Senator Hemmingson Yeager?
Quick question, is the Braemar Park Golf Course public or private?
It's public, Madam Chair.
Senator Latz?
Madam Chair, Senator Hemmingson Yeager, it's public.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Senator Hemmingson Yeager. Anyone else? Senator Nelson, question?
I just had a more of a general question. Why is it that the amounts need to be updated? I know that we went through a lot of this with the COVID era time. Projects were coming in over anticipation, and I'm just wondering if there's any overriding reason why the cost of the projects has increased beyond what the voters approved.
Senator Latz, would you prefer at this point that we hear from your testifier? Maybe
That's
can
what I was
answer
going to
some of these
request, Madam
questions?
Chair.
Sir, if you would identify yourself for the record. You've heard Senator Nelson's question. If you would respond to that, as well as your general testimony in favor of this bill.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. My name is Scott Neal. I'm the city manager in Edina. And one of the responses to the question about costs were, we've been working on this for a long time. And the first time that we made the presentation to the legislature to seek local sales tax, it was 2020. We were working with 2019 estimates at that point. Those estimates were continued to be used as this worked its way through a couple of years of hearings, et cetera. So we've had extensive construction-related inflation during that time period. So changing the ice arena from $53.3 million to $56.3 million is meant to just cover inflationary costs, and pretty modestly, actually.
Thank you.
Senator Nelson, did you have anything to add?
No, I think that answers my question. And just as I think we actually, during that time frame, I was unaware of the time frame that you were visiting, we actually did often have to increase, I think, sometimes by 10% during that time, those costs. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Nelson. Mr. Neal, do you have further testimony you'd like to deliver?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I think the things that we want to say today is that we have been working on this sales tax project for a number of years now. We have 2 projects that are underway that have been previously authorized by the legislature, one at Fred Richards Park and the other an ongoing set of projects actually at Braemar Ice Arena, and they are underway right now. What we're looking for is additional spending authority from the legislature. We are like many communities, we're wanting to deliver high-value services and projects for our taxpayers, and to try to look for non-property tax revenue sources. And this is a non-property tax revenue source that we think is important in our community. Right now, we have a tax rate of 0.5% approved for a 19-year time period. That raises quite a bit of money during that 19-year time period. We have authorization to spend about half of it, about $71 million. We're here really to seek authorization to spend the balance of what's going to be created during that 19-year time period for things like a public safety facility, a new project in our community, Edina Art Center that's being planned and actually constructed with the new Hennepin County Library in town, and $8 million of improvements at our pool, and $4 million improvements at our clubhouse at our golf course, both of which are projects that have really a pretty significant participation from people that live not just in our community, but in the market area for our community.
Thank you for that last comment. I was going to ask you, because it's not in the materials, to make an affirmative statement about the regional impact of this bill and of the projects, which is required under our guidelines. If you would speak to the regional impact further than you just did.
Yes, Madam Chair. Thank you. These 2 projects, the Edina Aquatic Center, the swimming pool that's located in Roslyn Park, and also the clubhouse at Braemar Golf Course, which is a public municipal-owned golf course, both of which are substantial regional park assets in Hennepin County, and I would say even outside of Hennepin County. So we are looking for a revenue source that is appropriate to cover improvements there, so they're not just borne by just property taxpayers in Edina, and this mechanism does that.
Thank you, Mr. Neal. Are there other questions or comments for the testifier? Seeing none, any further comments? Senator Latz.
We'd appreciate your support.
Thank you very much. Senate File 5065, as amended, is laid over. Thank you, Senator Latz.
Thank you, Madam Chair
Thank you.
and Committee.
Senator Hauschild, in working with others, will be bringing us a minerals article to be considered for the omnibus bill. We have asked him, instead of introducing a new bill, which right now is taking some time, to present it as an amendment to another bill that was previously introduced that he was the author of. So that minerals article so that members can have full access to it is going to be posted today. And it will be posted to Senate File 2766 as a delete everything amendment. Is that correct, Senator? Again, as a delete everything amendment. And I encourage members to, and the public to take a look at it, and it's going to be heard Thursday. It's going to be heard on Thursday. Senator Nelson.
We are not sure if you said 2776 or 2756.
2766.
Oh, either one, right in the middle.
Why-
Thank you.
Why was the other one your bill?
No, we were just trying to understand what we heard.
Okay, I'm sorry,
2766.
2766.
Thank you.
Okay. Are there further comments from the members today? Seeing none, we're adjourned.